Okay, this is a video I've been procrastinating and making for quite a while. My videos seem to be about 1 month between, not the best frequency. But today I want to look at some of the ways that central pawn breaks can be beneficial. When I first started considering that, when I would notice in master games the players playing these central pawn breaks almost every time they were able, it seemed like for a few games, uh, it kind of puzzled me, and I thought about it. And once I kind of got some of the ideas involved, I felt like it upped my play a bit. So I wanted to make a video on that. Um, so yeah, let's take this unlikely position and pretend you have enough square control as black to advance uh, e5. Like, say you have a knight on d7, maybe a rook on e8, and maybe a bishop on e6. I mean d6. And also, it might be good to imagine a knight on f3. And so, the major way that this pawn break would be beneficial is it gives you a space advantage. Generally, you're considered to have a space advantage if in an area of the board you control more squares in your opponent's territory than he does of yours. Now, he can take, if he takes, it's as though from this position you've exchanged that pawn you just moved for his center pawn. And so after he takes and you retake, you'll have this pawn structure where you'll have a space advantage in the center, because you'll have squares in his territory, e4, c4, and he'll have equal central square control, but they won't be in your territory. He'll have the perhaps less valuable, closer to home squares of f4 and d4. And so yeah, and also he wouldn't really want to exchange, most likely because of other things that I want to get into later. If he doesn't exchange, then you still have a space advantage because you've got these 4 squares on the 4th rank in his territory that you control, and he's just got those 2 on d5, no, e5 and c5. And it's not particularly cramping because that square that's newly controlled is already occupied by a pawn. White wasn't going to be able to use that for a piece anyway, and it's unlikely that he'd want to utilize. It's not all that likely anyway that he would be itching to use the f4 post, but it's possible he might have a bishop there or something. And so it gives you a space advantage, but it does other things also. It gives you more options for what to do with that pawn. Uh, in that imagined scenario where we have a rook on e8, you have the option now at your convenience of like breaking open lines on the e file if he doesn't like protect with c3. And so that gives you a good option for breaking open lines if it becomes advantageous to do so. Or you can advance and gain more space. Now you think, well, wait a second, he's controlling the same number of squares in the opponent's territory. It's still 2 squares in the opponent's territory for that pawn. How's that a gain in space? Well, they're further advanced in his territory. They're more cramping now. It locks up the center, demobilizing the white's e pawn, which will be in his way fairly well. And if, as we imagine, there was a knight on c3, that would be kicked away. So this would be done with tempo. But it's probably a good idea to actually maintain the tension and perhaps even protect it with a pawn, so that further discouraging a capture or just being in a place to better take advantage of a capture on e5 by keeping that pawn flanks, because with that pawn phalanx, like I said, you have good options. Once you advance, you don't really have any options. The pawns are stuck. Here, you can capture or advance, so why not wait to advance until you are sure it's a good idea? Because you can take those squares at F3 and D3 anytime. So, no hurry. He's not going to want to take there, most likely. Why isn't he going to want to take there? Well, in this situation, let's say there's a knight there with that bishop and rook still there. That square is very valuable for him to have given up for having central pieces, and you get a half-open file. And he it's just pleasant to be able to have a piece there so easily with options for pieces there, and it's true he can place a piece there, but it's not a very secure square, and it's not like your pawn is isolated for this activity you're getting. And yeah, it kind of makes more obvious the space advantage once he captures, or perhaps more helpful, because you've all of a sudden have a piece nicely stationed in the center that's just going to be replaced by more pieces if it's captured and recaptured and stuff. So, what else does it do? Well, back to the space advantage. The space advantage is about more than just how many squares you control and how advanced those squares are. It's also it's like killing two birds with one stone. It's like taking your opponent's weapons in The Art of War by Sun Tzu, I think it was. You're not just getting rid of his weapons, you're adding to your own. It's doing two positive things, not just one. You're not just cramping your opponent, you're freeing up your own game when you get a space advantage. And here, that's made clear because in vacating the e6 square, it could unleash a bishop if that bishop hasn't been developed prior to the e6 advance. And it vacates that square for possible rook maneuvers on the third rank, sixth rank, I guess. Though we can say third pretty accurately, I think. And it's just a useful new square for knights and any piece you want to use, and the lines that it opens up is helpful. Hmm. Was there anything else? I feel like there was. Let's think about it. So, yeah, it's there's lots of potential ways that this can be helpful to your position, and so it makes natural sense that when you're able to play a central pawn break, it's generally a good idea to do so. Um, I hope this was illuminating, and I guess there is a final point. Just like it's cramping the opponent and freeing up your own game by getting your pawn out of your own way. Say you do decide eventually to kick the knight away and gain space. There, his pawn in his way, and even after an exchange, his pawn is in his way, and you don't have that problem. This d5 pawn probably isn't going to be that uncomfortable to get around with your pieces compared with his e-pawn. And so yeah, I hope that improves somebody's play or understanding. And thanks for watching. Any questions, comments, suggestions, additions, whatever, feel free to leave a comment. Signing off.